worried whether or not it was faggy. And I said, it is so important to offer that to a kid, music lessons. And I talked to him about that. I talked to him about some career stuff.
And there was never a joke cracked. He called in and said, happy birthday.
I wasn't looking to crack a joke.
And then went into how horrible broadcasting was in his early career and how he had no life.
That's not what I said.
Yes, you did.
I said I had no life. I said I had a neurotic compulsion. In fact, I've dealt with this in therapy. I said, I think it's strange now that I look back on it. When I got my first job in Detroit, they put me in a hotel.
Do it again.
Well, you know what? People are interested in this.
If you want to call in, Robin.
Yeah, I want to know.
I know you do. Believe me, Robin doesn't understand.
She got a touch.
Believe me, I heard Robin's interview. Well, that was interesting, and that's what I'm going to yell at you about in a minute. But I will yell about that in a second.
What did you say?
I will yell about that in a second. But I was merely talking about, and I thought it was rather interesting, that I have this history of locking myself in a box, literally. I mean, what I would do when I first got a job, especially in Detroit, it wouldn't occur to me to go out and have fun or have a dinner or anything. I would go to work and then return to the hotel, sit in the hotel, and wait for the next show to start.
In Detroit?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I never went to somebody's house. I never went to, I'd invited to dinner. I would sit and wait for the next show. It shows you my whole life was consumed with this work. And the boys were asking me about my life. So I was talking about it in a serious manner.
I got to tell you, I feel sorry.
They ever even got to ask a question. He went into this diatribe about how he would never go back to his early years of broadcasting because his sucked.
I said I would never want to return to those days. There was nothing,
I got to tell you, I feel sorry for you. I really do.
But when you talk to guys...
I think you're tortured.
I am. When you talk to guys in the broadcasting business, for the most part, they're a lot healthier than I am because you hear them and they go, back in 1980 when I was at KXRQ, oh man, we went out and we partied.
There's a bar we'd always get fucked up at.
Right, and they always had lives. And here's my story. When I was at WWWW in Detroit, I sat in a room waiting for the next show.
And then he went into how he lived at a monastery.
I did. It was bizarre.
When was that?
For when I worked at WRNW.
I find this interesting. Monastery.
I lived in a. It is called the Cenacle up in Westchester in Tarrytown, not Tarrytown, in I can't think of the name of the town.
Worcester. Where were you?
I was in. Like around the Mount Kisco area. I can't think. Armonk. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was a cenacle with where monks lived. And were silent. And I lived there for a year. The price was right. It was $100 a month to live there.
Yeah. This before you're married?
Yes.
Right.
And I had no money. I was just starting out in broadcasting. I'm making $96 a week. How much can you afford to pay for rent? It was only allowed a cot. You couldn't talk. And... weren't allowed to eat meat or fish or anything. You just were served vegetables. And you sat there. And I would come home. I would work all day and night at the radio station. And then I would sit in a room. It was like a jail cell. It was the size of a jail cell. And I would sit there and wait for the next show.
And then Bubba got to ask one question, which was, well, when did you start to really make some money?
And I explained to him, because Bubba's fantasy was I was making big money in certain markets, like, when you went to Los Angeles. And I said, no, it's just the opposite, because I kind of made some, I think, bad deals. Because I took these stations and elevated them to number one.
Yeah.
But in order to prove that morning radio could succeed on a syndicated basis, I had to take shitty deals.
Well, look at what, one station bill. It's New York, but $50 million from one station.
Exactly.
But it was almost like Mein Kampf, listening to him, because of my struggle.
Meanwhile, you listen to every word.
Well, maybe...
No, I said that. I said, I can't... Okay, they got to change subjects eventually.
And I'll bet...
And then what did they change the subject to? How's Artie?
All right.
And I said, I love Artie. I said, yeah, Artie's got his issues. And I reminded people that Bubba at one point weighed almost 500 pounds and pulled his life together, but pulled it together when he was ready.
488. That's right. Rough. I couldn't imagine having another 200 pounds.
But Artie, you don't understand what was going on.
This is very interesting.
Instead of that was not the conversation. No. The conversation was Artie has a hole he's trying to fill.
No, I said to Bubba,
you must have had
again, you're wrong.
A hole.
I said to Bubba, tell me something. If you're discussing Artie's eating, I said, whether it's eating or drugs, I said, Artie always has some addiction.
I got a hole I'm trying to fill. It's on the chick from Philly.
So I said to Bubba, do you, now that you've lost weight, do you have this addiction in some other area? I was curious. Right. He said no. The guys explained that he's more addicted to hanging out with his kid.
No, but there was a whole discussion about, Bubba,
I'm going to get to that. You don't let me talk.